Hello, welcome to episode 2 of the Urbana Daily Digital Podcast. Thank you so much for everybody that watched our first episode with Greg Howard, the new CEO of the Champaign Family YMCA. We got a lot more recognition, a lot more feedback than we were expecting. We kind of just put it out there to see how it would go. So we're super excited to have our next guest, another good friend of mine, Polly Trenor from the Visitors Bureau. Polly, if you want to quickly just kind of introduce yourself and kind of how you ended up at the Visitors Bureau. I think you got a cool story as far as how you're connected in the community.
Sure. So I am born and raised in Urbana and graduated from Urbana High School in 2004. Left and went to Ohio State for 2 years with a vocal performance major, music enthusiast, I guess. And then transferred to Otterbein and got my music ed degree. So I started teaching at West Jefferson Middle School and High School choir and theater, and then eventually came to Graham Local Schools in 2014 and taught middle school, high school choir and musical theater there. And then, like everyone, COVID happened and, just had a shift in, I don't know, like maybe this isn't what I meant to do my whole life. And we also had a surprise COVID baby in there and went back into teaching and just thought, I think I need something different. And, spent a lot of time in prayer about it, trying to figure out what is my next role. Like music has been my entire life, teaching has been my entire life. Where do I go from here? So it just so happened that one day on social media, I saw the Chamber of Commerce had posted a job description of a part-time visitor experience representative. And I didn't know really what that meant. And I think similarly, people still don't know what it is, which is great that we're doing this today. But I took a chance and read the job description and I thought, it's someone who, gets to try to promote our area. And so I applied. I was still teaching at the time. It was like probably January of 2022. Obviously still teaching. I applied, got a call that they wanted to interview me. And thankfully it was on like President's Day or MLK Day or something where I was off teaching school, and I could come and interview. So I interviewed and, still really didn't know exactly what I was interviewing for. And it was a new position for the chamber also. So I knew it was going to be like a position that I could kind of grow and build, being a brand new position. So waited a few weeks, got a call from Sarah Neer, executive director of the chamber, offering me the job. There was a hiccup in that I was like, I can't leave in the middle of the year. I need to keep my teaching job until May. And Sarah and the board of directors of the chamber, they were like, well, wait. And that's awesome. I just knew that I was like, okay, this was meant to be. If they're going to wait, 3-4 months for me to get started, then it's meant to be. So, school ended in late May, right after Memorial Day. I started my first day at the Visitors Bureau. And I think I even worked like on my spring break teaching. I went to one of your lunch and learns.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. On like, social media and stuff. That was my first like dipping my toe into the job.
Yeah.
And started in May of 2022 part-time. And then beginning in January of 2023, I went full-time then. So it's awesome. It's just been a learning process, but it was such a good move for me. I'm so lucky. I just get to share what I love about my hometown and my area with everybody else. For me, it feels like the perfect fit. It's just everything that I thought about, like not teaching, like this is the role that I feel like I was supposed to be in. And I still direct the choir at First Presbyterian Church, so I still have my love of music there.
Get one of those musical outlets.
Yes,
Too,
and
yeah.
I did last year started a Champaign County Community Choir,
That's awesome,
so that was fun to do that last year. I need to get that going again, but yeah, it's a way to mix both of my careers.
Yeah, you mentioned it being meant to be. I can tell you from an outside point of view, I remember when they were hiring for that position, and we'll talk a little bit why that came to be here in a second. But it's funny because I remember them saying like, "Hey, we have this choir teacher." And I'm just like, "Is this going to be a good fit? Is this not?" And on day one, and I remember when you came to Lunch Learn and I met you, I was like, "Yes, she's going to be awesome." And
thank you.
I'll tell you that your genuine passion for our community is what drives that. And I think that you are beyond being able to pretend that you enjoy it at this point from an outside point of view. So I can tell that you thoroughly enjoy it. It fulfills you. It's something that you're excited to get up every day. And our community is so lucky that that they recognize that in the interview process and we're willing to wait because, the way that this kind of came to be, and I'll let you kind of speak to that a little bit too.
Sure.
Kind of, you mentioned that this was a chamber listed job, but really it's not funded from the chamber side of things.
Right.
So maybe you can kind of speak to a little bit. I think a lot of people don't understand how the money flows, if you will. And so maybe if you want to explain a little bit of how your job came to be and how it's funded.
Absolutely. So we'll talk just kind of about funding first. The Visitors Bureau lives under the umbrella of the Chamber of Commerce. However, the Chamber is funded through membership. So membership organization, also through fundraising. That's solely how they're funded. And then the Visitors Bureau is funded through lodging taxes.
Right.
So, and this is not something, that's unique to our area.
Right.
Every place in the state, every place nationwide, that's how tourism is funded.
Yeah.
So when you go to, a hotel in Chicago,
right.
you're paying a tax
yeah.
for their, tourism organization. So it's the same here in our small community. So we have had, there's always been lodging taxes, but it really shifted when the cobblestone was built.
Absolutely, yes.
And that was in 2020. And at that time, the city of Urbana, passed an ordinance where it was mandatory collecting of those lodging taxes. So something that's very typical, the city of Urbana keeps 50% of the collected lodging taxes throughout our city. So not the county, but the city of Urbana. And then 50% of that goes to the Visitors Bureau. And then we do collect from county Airbnbs, things like that. People always ask me, like, how many Airbnbs do we have in Champaign County? Like, it doesn't seem like enough to sustain that. And right now we're running at about 50.
Yeah. I think it'll surprise most people too.
Yeah. So,
and 50 that are consistently filled as well.
Yes. We have a Airbnb owner on our Visitors Bureau committee, and, he's, consistently booked with his Airbnbs. So like countywide, they're also being collected, but there's a specific ordinance in the city that collects those taxes. Yeah. So, the chamber really focuses on their membership. The Visitors Bureau focuses on anything that we might, think will bring people into our area, whether they're chamber members or not.
Yeah. And I think that, the other part too, that I think is harder to understand when you're a local to Champaign County is that people want to come visit here.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of people might look at a job of like, well, why would we pay somebody? Like, no one's visiting Urbana, Ohio. No one's visiting Champaign County. And I think that you have really turn some heads with showing that no, that's not the case, and what you've been able to do with the social media presence that you guys have, and on the website, I get to see a lot of those analytics, and it just continues to grow, and we're getting more and more eyes. I mean, I have lots of people where we're building a website for somebody that moved to Urbana because they visited for an event that now they fell in love with it and moved here. They're raising their family here
that's
and want to be a part of it, right? And I think that shocks some people because when you're in Urbana, your whole life in a lot of cases, you're just like, well, this has always been kind of the same thing. Oh, maybe there's a new coffee shop that opened or this is happening. And we've had a lot of development downtown, but I do think that, a lot of your average local residents don't really understand the side of what brings people in. So maybe you can speak to that a little bit of some of the things that you see that are consistently bringing people into our county.
Sure. And I think what's unique about me specifically in this position is that I've been through everything that you're talking about. Like I grew up here. I was in that camp, when you're 18 years old, and you're like,
Yeah.
I'm never coming back.
Yep.
There's
As was I.
nothing to do here,
Yep.
and, my husband and I we're both from here. So when we moved back after college, we moved for different reasons. He was teaching back at Urbana High School, his alma mater, and we wanted to be near family.
Absolutely.
But even when we moved back, there wasn't, we still kind of had that. There's not a lot to do here. So just that, like, to witness the renaissance and the growth and development of our area from, being a child to, leaving and then coming back. And then now where I really feel like, we're a thriving area, and I have family all over, really. And, I'll meet like a in-law or something, and they'll say like, oh, I saw you in a magazine, and it's about our area.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's something that you think like, I would have never dreamed that would have happened, even 10 years ago in our area.
Yeah.
And so I think also, just to speak on what you said, if people are saying like, why are we paying for a tourism person? I think what's great about this position is no one here in our county is paying for this position.
That's a great point.
It is solely paid by tourism. So I think that, just keeping in mind that the more people are coming to our area, spending the night, the more we're able to grow as a community and spread the word about everything that's great here.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, what's bringing people here, Second Saturdays have really grown.
Yes.
And, we see consistently visitors coming. And part of what we talked about with the Main Street organization through Heritage Ohio, talking about consistent events that are 12 months out of the year that people just know are happening during that time. So, you might not know what the theme is. You don't know what exactly is happening downtown, but you're like, oh, I know it's the second Saturday of the month.
There's something going on. Yeah.
I'm going to go to downtown Urbana.
And we've seen that for a while with the flea market. So there was something that's kind of hidden at the fairgrounds, kind of behind the scenes, but that was a consistent, and it brought a lot of people in there. And I love that we're shifting that to downtown.
Yes. And we continue to see so much at the flea markets. I mean, we have a lot of visitors who come and spend the night just, to come to the flea market or to be a vendor at the flea market. So they kind of like started that whole, like, we are this weekend every month. And that's what, we're trying to do with Second Saturdays.
And it continues to grow. It's amazing. Just the things it's funny when I talk to Sarah or I bump into you guys in a meeting or First Friday event and you're like, oh yeah, we got this crazy, we got a skating rink coming. We have I'm just like, what in the world? Like things that you would have never thought, like you said, growing up here, I would have never thought that kind of stuff would have been happening in our downtown, right?
Right.
And I think there's been a lot of cool development that has kind of led towards this too. You mentioned the hotel being a big piece of that. And I think that was, a lot of people don't realize that the Cobblestone Hotel would not have happened without local investors.
Absolutely.
And it was a big picture play from some of the investors involved to be able to say, hey, let's take this chance. We do think that there is a need for this. And it's funny because there's talks, sitting on the economic development board, we need another hotel now. It's getting to where it's like, oh wow, like not only did we prove that was a need, we're now seeing that it was such a need that we actually have a bigger need now because now it exists. And you're right, all these people are traveling for all different reasons. You have a lot of people that are traveling in, people flying into our airport that stay the night to be able to do things, and people don't think about all these different things that make Champaign County unique. And a lot of people come in for the aviation museums, come in for a lot of the different things that we have. Maybe you can kind of speak to some of the things to do, because as you live here, I think, you're a little bit numb to what's happening, where like, I think about this as if I was a resident in Orlando or Las Vegas, there's so much happening that I probably wouldn't be keeping up with it. But from an outside point of view, you go, oh, there's cool things happening. Maybe give some unique perspective of some of the things that are popular to do in Champaign County.
Yeah. So first of all, just shameless plug, make sure you're following the Visitors Bureau on Facebook or Instagram.
Absolutely.
We try to put everything out of what's happening. But, to speak on one of the things you said, take Huey's Coffee, for example. So I don't know if many people know Huey's Coffee is completely based in Texas.
Right.
We are the only location outside of Texas right now. And that was all because, the owner of Huey's had a connection to our museums at the airport and connection with community member who said, like, why don't you open up a coffee shop here?
Right.
And that's why we have Huey's. And that connection of the museum to visitor to now, business owner here is what you're talking about, that full circle moment. But yeah, we were talking a little bit before the show, like people don't know or realize, we have 3 aviation museums that are free to the public. And, not only the aviation museums, but even just to go at, Mindy's Airport Cafe and sit and watch the airplanes come in. And that's something that, as a tourist, you think is so unique. And it is. As a resident, you might have done it once or twice, but you just kind of forget that that's an option for you. Just a personal experience this summer within the last month, my family, we did a canoe trips, at Birch Bark Livery. And, we're doing this 2-hour trip. And I'm like, I forget of how amazing that, this is our county. We're on this beautiful river with this beautiful, trees and nature all around. And, we have this here available to us.
One of my boys worked there last summer, and he would come home and talk about all these people that were coming from all over the world. And it was just like, it was a reset for me to be like, wow, that's just another reason that, another thing attracting people into our county that is kind of hidden, where people kind of, like, to your point, you may have done it once or twice in your life, but you're like, it's kind of, not, you don't drive by it every day. It's kind of out, out in the country. And it's like, wow, like that is just one of the many things that we have that are bringing people in.
And, you think about, like you said, your son worked there, they're running on tourism, and same thing, you think of Ohio Caverns, and most people in our area have been a couple of times, or maybe they haven't been at all, but it's a nationally known cave, and it is unbelievable. And I can't speak to their exact numbers, but I know it's in the tens of thousands of visitors that they bring every year, and they're open
365 days
exactly.
It's funny, we were down in at Mammoth Cave over the summer, and we took a trip down and took our moms, and right up there, Ohio they had caverns, and how the distance in all these different directions. Ohio Caverns was right there being represented, and it's like, wow, how that connection of anywhere you go. I always joke with Urbana and Champaign County as a whole that I go to large conferences and different things like that, and I'll get to talking to somebody like, you're from Urbana, Ohio, and there's always a connection back. Do you know this person, or this or that? And it's just amazing, that we get kind of stuck in this little pocket, as far as like, we kind of forget the impact that we have. I mean, from a manufacturer standpoint, the amount of things that leave Urbana, we have pieces on the moon, what I mean, that people that have built here in Champaign County. And it's kind of cool to kind of have that perspective. And I think, you probably get a unique perspective to see all these people, and you're communicating and promoting to people that maybe know nothing about Champaign County that, from an outside point of view, but they come. And I think that's the other unique thing. There's been in the past, I feel like a lot of negativity about it, like you said, and I was the same way. I'm never coming back this town. I went down to school in Orlando, Florida. I'm like, I'm never coming back here. But there's something about this that makes it special, and people feel that when they come, even to visit. They say, this is a cool place. This is somewhere that I want to come back and return, or I want to be a part of this. That people feel drawn to be a part of something in this community, and I think that's special to everyone that lives here. That exists, and not just even, you see that in some pockets of smaller towns with school system, or like you could even say, like when we had the university, you have some of those different pieces. But what was unique, I think, about Urbana is that we were never really known as a college town. We were we're not even really known as an aviation town. Maybe to some people that's the only reason they came. But when most people come, they fall in love with the community as a whole. And I think we have so much to offer. We have amazing arts. The mural that's put up there in downtown now, and besides, which is, I don't know, how many murals do we have now with that? So we have I know we're working on a couple too. I'm starting to keep track of all of them.
Yeah. So I mean, countywide, Mechanicsburg has one. Urbana has 3 or 4. I think West Liberty has a couple, and then we're hoping to get one in St. Paris soon. But that's another thing. Arts and culture, public art is a huge tourist attraction right now. And I said at the the ribbon cutting for the Urbana mural, that, full circle moment for me is when right after Riley was finished with the mural, like a couple days later, there were some cyclists who came. They were, biking the Simon Kenton Trail, and they came and took their picture at the Urbana mural and posted it. And I was like, yes, this is what it's all about.
That's awesome.
And when you think like their tourist impact on our local economy, you think they're using the Simon Kenton Trail, they're probably stopping for lunch somewhere, they're visiting our mural, it's just it's so neat how all of it connects.
And speaking of the bike path side of things too, another avenue that is bringing visitors in that a lot of people don't think about, they're working on trying to connect up North Lewisburg and St. Paris, and working on some larger things to get us into some of the larger circuits of the bicycling paths. And
that community is big.
Yes,
the cycling community is a serious community, and they want to travel to different areas. And I know that there are many people in our organization here in Champaign County that are trying to get those paths connected so that we can continue to bring people in, which is, cycling and outdoor enthusiasts, like, you don't necessarily think of our area as being that, but like I mentioned the canoeing, but we have Cedar Bog, you've got Davy Woods. I visited Davy Woods for the first time when I got this position like 2 years ago in the fall. Beautiful,
family favorite spot.
I think 1.5 mile trail, and just absolutely gorgeous. You wouldn't even know that you're, in that area. And we've got so many things to offer. Point North.
And I think that, we've got all these things bringing people in. I think we've got, so many unique things too, I think is a big exclamation point. But part of making all of that work is when people do come in to do things, they also need places to eat. They also need, so talk a little bit around some of the growth that we've had around restaurants and some of the innovation that we've had. I've seen so much growth. Even from the side of making sure that we've got food trucks downtown, and just like just the thought process to say, hey, when you're here, let's make sure that we're taking care of them so they come back. Maybe speak to that a little bit.
So I think the easiest way to start is in downtown Urbana, just because that is like the hub of most of the retail, most of the dining and, shopping experiences, stuff like that. So, first and foremost, just a huge shout out to all of our small business owners downtown, because they're working tirelessly to keep that momentum and that charm going for our visitors. We had someone this past second Saturday, a visitor was walking by our visitor bureau tent, and we just happened to hear them say, like, oh my gosh, this is so much like a Hallmark town or like a Hallmark movie. And I know that that's, the shop owners, that's kind of their goal, is to have that feeling. But, again, we can talk about like, oh, when I was younger, I remember as a young girl having like Stage or Almonds, and a couple of like a shoe store or something like that. But, to see the amount of clothing boutiques, antiques, it's amazing all we have to offer. But the dining experience has had such a huge shift even in the last 5 years.
Agreed.
The addition of the brewery, there's no doubt that was a game changer to our downtown.
When you walk in there, I remember when they did that ribbon cutting and people walked in for the first time, and the response to that was, wow, this can be in Urbana. I think that there's a lot of dreamers, there's a lot of people that maybe were naysayers, but when you walk into that space, that was in my looking back, that was a defining moment of, hey, we can do more here, and this can exist here, and it's so proud of that team that's done that and the continued success. And what's interesting is, if you talk to them, they wanted to just do the brewery part. They realized there was a need for more food downtown, and so like they became one of my favorite pizza places now.
Absolutely. Well, and just to see so many community members and friends and family gather there.
Yes.
And, when it's nice out, gather, on the rooftop
Yeah.
and I had reached out to an influencer on Instagram. She travels, throughout Ohio. And she was talking about different breweries and I messaged her. I was like, you've got to come to Urbana Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Like we've got this rooftop deck.
Yeah.
And so, still waiting to hear back from her, but she said something to me like, oh, that sounds awesome. But when I think about, the brewery tucked in the corner there.
Yeah.
And then, again, this is in Champaign County.
Yeah.
This is in Urbana. You've got a Pequeños, you've got tapas and wine and, there.
Yes.
Then you keep going and you've got traditional Venezuelan.
Yes.
And then you keep going and you've got, Italian with Cafe Paradiso. And now, Luis opened his taco place. I mean, it's just like, you've got so many dining options in how many square feet of downtown and
absolutely.
Eatly, Fusion. You've got all of those places.
And what's great is that, like you said, when we were growing up, we had a couple, local spots that were staples. You can get there. It's just endless, and they're all a unique experience. They're all delicious food. They're like I said, unique from all over the world. Like the thought of I could have put $1 million when I was a kid. Like that'll never exist here. You know what I mean? And right here we are, and it's not only existing, it's bringing more in, and it's bringing this new vibe to downtown that you're starting to see start to float outside the county or outside of this Urbana, right? Throughout the county, you look at restaurants like what we saw with Mad River Farm Market, what that's becoming, and up towards West Liberty and Mix 165, and what that's doing in Mechanicsburg. It's bringing these unique things that I'm sure those towns would have said these things would never exist here, growing up. And so I think it's the other cool thing I really love to share when I can is being behind the scenes of a lot of this, and you can probably relate to this. The people that are putting their money where their mouth is, the people that are developing these, they are doing it for the right reasons. I think it's unique because some towns have, one group of developers or a certain people that are kind of telling the narrative and turning it into their town. We have a group of probably 9 or 10 investors, especially in Urbana, that work together and they think about like when there's a vacant space, they don't just fill that with what they need right away. They're talking about like, well, this doesn't make sense here.
What's going to work here?
Yes, exactly. What's going to work here? Let me connect you with this other person that may have a space that'll work better for you. And they're doing it the right way. And I think that also is setting the narrative of what we're building right now in the sense that we're doing it right. We're doing it the right way. It's not going in one person doesn't have a vision that's taking it in one direction that maybe the rest of the community is like, I don't know if that's the way we want to go. It is collaborative. And I think that anybody that wants to be a part of that conversation is welcome to be a part of that as well. From my point of view on the back end side, which I think is special for a town our size. I think it would be very easy for someone to come in with a large pocketbook and say, I'm going to start to see opportunity here and start to shift this in the direction that I want and start to buy up buildings, start to buy up real estate and turn these things into the things that I want it to be. And I think it's happened very organically, which I think is kind of special for a town like ours.
Well, I think when you mentioned that, and then we were talking about the restaurants and shops, it's the people.
Yes.
And, when I was listing restaurants and, in my head though, I'm thinking not of the restaurant, I'm thinking of the person.
Yes, sure.
So like, the people, whether it's, Jamin or Matt and Lizzie or Chetty or, Jeremiah, like you're specific people that you're connecting with those places. Mix, you think of Brad, Hemisphere, you think of Grace and Paul. And I think that's what is so different, I think, about our area is it's people.
Yes, agreed.
And it's not just the business. And you've got people who are highly invested in our community, not just for their pocketbooks, but for the betterment of our community.
Agreed.
And I think that outsiders, I think insiders, when you're in it, you don't see it as much or you take it for granted. But we hear all the time from people outside.
As do we.
How are you guys doing this? Or like, we've had other visitor bureaus come to us and, we've been in existence 3 years, but full time at least. And, come to us and say like, what are you doing right? How can help us? And mind you, these are visitors bureau with way more money than we have. But I think it's people.
Yes, agreed, 100%.
People who love and, love this community and want to see it grow and develop.
Everywhere I go, I get asked, how did that town build such a shop local, a true shop local, support local feel? And I respond, I'm like, no one did that. It's the people. Like you connect with the people. We have businesses doing the right things for the right reasons, giving back to the community in the ways that they can. And you see that time and time again, where, if there's a local family in need, businesses step up. If a soccer team needs to be sponsored, local, like you just see that.
Or second Saturdays. All, I mean, you think of, you were talking about like the skating rink and the rock climbing wall. It's all from local sponsors who are saying, here's our money, and most of them just say, here's our money, and you do your thing.
Do something fun with it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's special because, a lot of communities are trying to get people to invest into them to do those kind of things where, when you do it the right way and you have the right intentions and we're all in this together to make our community a better place. And when you have that mentality, I think it makes all this easier. But it's hard to explain that to another visitors bureau or another organization outside, because they're just like, I want to replicate this, and it's like you can't replicate it from the top down. It's from the bottom up,
right.
that makes that work.
And we all have our same struggles. Like we've talked to all different organizations that have the same issues that we might have or whatever, and I guess that kind of segues into, my next point of like, if people are wondering like, well, how do I get involved or like, what can I do? We are always looking for volunteers. I mean, really where we are lacking right now is like boots on the ground. Many hands make
There's
light
so many
work.
things happening that we need people now.
Yes. And, our community is so tight knit, and we do have so many people who are giving all that they can, but we're hitting those same people up all the time. So like, an easy way, if you're interested in volunteering, and I know we've had, like DECA groups from schools, NHS kids, athletic groups come and, need hours or they want to do community service, and just contact our organization and we'll, say like, oh, we could use help on this second Saturday or we can use help, chili cook off or whatever it is. So
that's awesome.
Little plug in there that like you can always use volunteers.
Yeah. And it's a great way to get involved and meet new people and to
without having to serve on a committee.
Yes,
or
100% and kind of be on your time. But it's one of those things that when I see people sign up to help with anything, and they always leave fulfilled. They're like, wow, that was a way better experience than I anticipated. I feel like I'm part of now this community. I think that's what else is unique, is that being insiders that have grown up here, we kind of have a foot in the door to maybe spark some conversations that maybe other people couldn't. But I think what else is unique is that Urbana doesn't just shoo away outsiders. Like, we invite new ideas, new concepts, new thoughts to be able to come in. And I think that's unique as well. So if somebody has a really cool business idea, there's going to be people here locally to be like, oh, let's see if we can make that happen. That does make sense in our community. But it all comes back to community. I mean, it's what our entire business has been built on, is we can build websites and do all these different digital marketing things all over the world. And we're like, no, we want to do it here. We want to sit down and have coffee with people because we understand this community. We understand where it's going. We understand this bigger piece. And I think that that's unique. I think most communities are reaching out to people like you saying, how do we replicate this? Right. I would like to finish up with one more thing that I think was kind of a big deal that I think some people didn't understand. I think that it came and went quickly, it seems like, from our point of view, but we were voted the best hometown. And I think that that's more than just a publicity thing, right? I think that that's like a unique special thing for our community. So if you would just like to maybe speak on that a little bit, of kind of how that came to be, kind of, you've had a little time to kind of reflect on that a little bit now too, and kind of what stood out to you to kind of make that special?
Yeah. So you mentioned like it came and went, and I felt that way too. I saw that the new 5 best hometowns were listed for this upcoming year, and I was like, oh, ours is over. But it was a great experience, and I feel honored to have been able to, be the one to apply, and I got to really just brag about our community. And it was, 5 different categories that I wrote here's why.
Yeah.
And, I don't know them off the top of my head since it's been over a year,
Yeah.
but, you've got sort of like what we've talked about, like arts and culture, economic development. I think there was a section on, public education, events, seasonal events, stuff like that. And, healthcare, I think was the other one. But filling out that application, writing these, essentially essays about each category, but also getting to talk to people in those categories. You get to talk about like why this is good, why it's the best, and why it should be the best. And for me, after I was finished compiling everything, I read, proofread, and it was a moment of like, oh my gosh, our area is so special.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing. And, after submitting it and then you just wait and hear back. And, the editors of Ohio Magazine came and interviewed, I think myself and Doug Crable, a couple other people, but to walk around with them and show them our area, we toured at that time, the Willman building, which was under heavy construction at the time. But again, it's those outsiders coming in just in awe of what was happening in our area. And, to see our area get that exposure. And I think it's really cool to see, Brad Winter and his family on the cover.
Yeah.
And, yes, Brad's a Mechanicsburg person, but he's heavily involved in Arts Council and CEP.
Yeah.
But to see that family on the cover and then to open the article and see, everything we've talked about, these people that make our area special. It was a big honor. And I think it's just a reflection of where we are right now.
Yeah.
Like we deserve that recognition.
Agreed.
And, I just hope that we continue to get, that, see the benefits of that, publicity that we had, and people keep coming to our area. But a great experience, and to the culmination last November of the celebration that we had, and listening to different speakers, and we had the marching band there, and just this big celebration. And we had Sutphin with a fire truck, and I mean, it's just amazing what our community has to offer.
Agreed.
Not just from a tourism perspective, but I know you touched on it. When you think of just the manufacturing that's here, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. It's a special place to not only visit, but it's a special place to grow up like we did, but it's a great place to raise your family.
Absolutely.
It's a great place to call home. And, and I think that's what makes it special. The people that do live here, move here, visit here, they feel that sense of community. I think that's what makes us special. Polly, thank you so much for hopping on the show.
Yeah.
Being my number 2 guinea pig. We upgraded a few things. We'll see where this goes. And keep
I could talk about Champaign County all day.
We
could have this conversation so much longer.
We will have you back for sure, and we'll probably get better quality as we go. But but I want to personally thank you for everything that you do. I'm so happy that you fell into this role, and that it's a meant to be kind of thing that you got to hear, and the impact that you have that goes unnoticed, I think is unmeasurable. And so I thank you for everything that you do and what the chamber does, because there's so many things as I see behind the scenes that make a lot of this stuff happen and a lot of these things special. And I don't feel like you always get the recognition you deserve. So
I feel like I get plenty. And when people do thank me or any one person, my response is always like, it's a group effort.
Sure.
Again, I'll say it, many hands make light work. Like it's all of us, doing this. And, I do want to thank you for having me, and I feel so blessed that I get to do this job. Like,
that's awesome.
I get to share everything that is wonderful about our area.
Yes.
And I'm happy that we have this position, and hopefully, like in the future, if we get another hotel or continue to grow, that hub of tourism just continues to grow as well.
Agreed. And we will definitely be having you on in future episodes talking about the next stage and the next step. And hopefully it is talking about things like new hotels and new cool things are happening.
Absolutely.
But if there's one thing I know, it isn't going to stop after this conversation. So there'll be so much more to talk about, and I can't wait to have you on again. But thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah.